Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Intentional Empires podcast. I am here with Elena. I am such a huge fan. For those of you who don't know, Elena is the Muslim travel expert. If you are going on Umrah Hajj, if you want to travel on a budget, Elena is the person you need to follow. So I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about business and money and everything. Cool.
And you guys will also learn something about Elena today that I learned, and that is that you also have a background in finance. So I'm excited to get into that, inshallah.
Inshallah, yes.
Let's get into it. Can you share a little bit about your background and how you got into online business?
Oof. I think online business got into me rather than me getting into online business. Right, a little bit of background. I came to the UK 18 years ago. I just realized it's been 18 years, and I'm like, I've been trying to escape this country. I only came for 3. But I live in the UK and I've lived in many different countries. I came to study. I have an undergrad in business and I did a master's in Islamic finance. So I literally did a master's in Islamic finance. And I was so excited because I wanted to go into investment banking and work in the finance world. And I was very passionate about, doing it the halal way. Oh, what a disappointment that was. And then I always loved traveling. I come from a multicultural background and I always loved finding deals. And somebody suggested I start a blog. And I started a blog and it's been 10 years. And alhamdulillah, we're the largest Muslim friendly website in the West. I help Muslims travel the world in style without breaking the bank. I've been featured in the New York Times and the Lonely Planet and CNN and so many other mainstream media, which sometimes I just pinch myself and I'm like, how did that happen? Subhanallah. And I do believe that part of it is because one of my passions is to help people go for Umrah and have amazing experiences, but for less money. And I teach how people can do that. And I honestly believe it's the du'as of all these people. I've helped over 1 million people over the past 10 years. So it has been such a blessing. So I really just stumbled on online business. And actually, for many years, because it started as a hobby, it was very hard for me to transition into being a business and actually seeing it as a business, and making money out of it and paying my bills with it and all these things. And especially 10 years ago, it wasn't as prevalent. How social media was just starting and brands were not used to paying money for content and they were not used to paying for exposures and marketing and things like that. So it was a totally different scene when I started to what is actually now.
Wow, that's amazing. And just to think of how many people you've served through your business.
Yes.
Like it's
Yes.
not thousands, it's not hundreds of thousands. We're talking millions, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. Sometimes when I get into that, what am I doing? My imposter syndrome and everything. And I just go and open that folder of all the du'as and, all these things that I keep to kind of motivate me. Yeah, I really pinch myself.
It's incredible, mashallah. It's
Alhamdulillah.
amazing. So I know you sort of touched on it. I want to ask you, what part of your business actually makes money?
Ooh, okay. So that's very interesting. I started with a blog. So MuslimTravelGirl.com is my website. It's my baby. And I actually consider myself chief editor and content creator in the sense of like a blogger than like social media influencer. Um, I kind of post social media because it promotes my business, but like I don't consider myself an influencer, if that even makes sense to some people. The majority of my income actually comes from my website,
Okay.
so from advertisement and from reviews that people, businesses I work with pay for, like Google advertisements, things like that. And then I do have a course and a book that I actually promote and sell, which helps people with more detail and it's much more in depth. So I do make money from that as well. And then, of course, because I have a large following on social media, I do work with brands and I do partnerships with brands, but I am very conscious and I guess intentional, right, with the brands I work with and the things that I promote. One of the things when I started at the beginning was that I wanted to, and I guess that's very intentional in my business. I wanted to be able to make money in an ethical way that I don't have to depend on brands to make income. Because let's say I go to a hotel, which has happened actually. I go to a hotel and I stayed, and it was a free stay, and they obviously paid me for the free stay, like for the content. But I had an amazing experience when I was with the general manager. But then the next day I went to the restaurant, nobody knew who I was. My experience was totally different than the experience I had the day before, although I really liked the food. And that's where the discrepancy happened. And I value a lot, and I've helped 1 million people and more. Actually, it's more than 1 million now. But I am very intentional because the audience is my income. I rather serve the hundreds of thousands that come to my website every month and value my opinion than one hotel stay. So I made an intentional decision that I rather have ads on my website, that I rather sell my courses, but then I have the freedom to express exactly what I want and recommend to my audience because I value the trust they put in me more than the 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000, whatever I'll be paid for a brand promotion. That is a one off thing.
I think that that's such an important point because a lot of people go into business, especially women, looking for more flexibility because they don't want to work for corporate. They want to do something that's more ethical, have a small business. And then when you look at brand deals, when you look at starting to collaborate with other businesses, sometimes it's easy to get stuck in the exact same trap of wait a
Yeah.
second, this isn't what I wanted.
Yes, and I feel, especially now with the terms of social media influencers, and I have seen that. I mean, as I said, I've been in in the business for 10 years. I have seen people come and go, and sometimes people get so caught up in brand partnerships and in promoting, even on TikTok, like promoting products that TikTok made me buy it, and I mean, I'm guilty of that. um, and then it's just like you're raving for a product that's not true. For me, that's false advertisement, and it really ruins your trust in someone. And at the end of the day, we all, especially as Muslims, we're all accountable for our actions, and what we promote. And I'm always very careful, even on social media, when I talk about Umrah and things like that, of how I word things, because at the end of the day, Allah will judge us of our intentions, of how we created our money, and of what we have promoted, because you never know what our actions or words inspire someone else to do.
That's so important as Muslims in the business space is we want to be doing it differently. We don't want to fall into the trap of profits first because that's not how our faith works. Our faith is all about what skill did Allah give to me that I can share with the world and how can I serve other people and build a community. And so
Yes.
it's so important to remember that even when we have a business, that of course we're taught that the purpose of the business is to generate profits, to remember that ultimately we're here to serve.
Yes, but at the end of the day, once your intention is correct, once you're doing it for a purpose, and you always keep your intention towards Allah and why you're doing it, no matter what business you have, that baraka will go into your business, and that will create profits into your business. For me, it's never been one or the other, if that makes sense. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, I believe that one of the reasons why Muslim Travel Girl is where it is today is because of the people who made dua for me while they were in Umrah. And that's what I always remember. When I have a bad month and I haven't made the money I had to make, or when something went totally wrong, it's always what I remember, that at the end of the day, your intentions, yes, you make profit, but Allah will double and triple that.
And it's easier said than done because when
A
you are
hundred
in those
percent.
months, when you are in those months and you don't see the sales, and in your head you're like, that's it, this isn't working, the
Yeah.
whole thing was a bad
Yeah.
idea.
I mean, January
So
has been that month for me. Like, if we're honest, January is a very bad month for travel because everybody has been somewhere in December. So now, and advertisements and everything. So now I'm like, what do you do here?
that's when we really have to remind ourselves, is when it's
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
So I know you have like 10 years of experience in online business.
Yeah.
What would you say has kind of been one time that you have, I don't want to say failed, but you tried something that you thought was going to work and it didn't work? And what did you learn from that?
Oh, I have failed more than once. Like, so for many years, I actually didn't try because I was scared of failure. And I guess now that I am a mom and I have a daughter that is very similar in that sense to me of she's a perfectionist, she wants everything perfect. It's an amazing lesson on a personal level and on a business level that if we do not fail, we do not learn. And when I started, I tried to emulate what other people are doing, or I wouldn't try things that I really wanted to do in my heart, but I wasn't sure how they would be accepted. And I have put a lot of effort. I mean, even on social media, I will create a video or a reel that I was like, this is going to be amazing. Like, there is so much information. It's packed. I've spent hours doing it. I've spent hours recording and editing, and then it flops. And then you have this thing where I've spent 10 minutes editing and it takes millions of views. And the thing that I have found is that failure is just like learning something and just getting back up. If we don't fail, we're not going to learn. And I feel for the past 4 years, since my daughter is four, I have started to learn this lesson better. I'm not 100% there yet because obviously nobody wants rejection or fear or failure. But I don't see failure as a bad thing anymore. Like, even in my courses, I have mistakes and I make mistakes when I record. I'm like, I'm a human. I'm not going to re-record the whole thing 3 hours just because there is a mis-sentence there. I'm just going to roll with the punches and I'm just going to learn that not everything has to be perfect and that failure is not the end all. It's just, part of the process. And if you go back and you learn and you look at my website or my content, like, there is so much improvement over the years, but that wouldn't be there if I didn't make all these mistakes.
I think that's the common thing with everyone. Everyone who wants to succeed in online business is that you have to get comfortable not being perfect.
100%, 100%. And I feel like society creates that fear of perfection. But one thing you don't see, and I always kind of remember there was an ad of a ballerina with the toes that were all broken and bruised, and like it was an advertisement, right? But you see the outside, you see the 1 million people who have helped, you see the hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. What you don't see is behind the scenes and the work and the effort it takes and the failures that it takes. And I feel society and especially social media now, we have this FOMO and this of we're not doing enough in our lives when we look at someone else's lives, but we always forget that it's just a facade. That's not actually real. And that, these people struggle. I struggle exactly the same way like everybody else.
It's so true. And we see it all the time. We look at everybody's highlight reel. All of
Yeah.
the reels that you see on your For You page are the ones that are performing very well. And so we believe that everybody is just this highlight reel, and it's not the case at all.
No, no, 100%. I mean, I could say that for my life. 100% not the case.
Yep, same here. At the beginning of the year, I went through my Instagram page from even just 1 year ago, and I would never post that today.
But that's how you learn, that's how you improve. And also, I actually leave a lot of things, like I have not deleted things from my social media. Like if you go at the 1,000 posts I have, and I don't do it for a reason, because that's my growth. That's how far I've become, and inshallah, I just want to go back and see in 10 years how far I'll be.
I think that's so important to mention because I think that business is the best way, business and kids are the fastest way to get better at your personal development.
Oh, 100%. It's all of your fears coming at the forefront of your life, like in front of you, and you're just like, I need to tackle this. Like it's sink or swim.
Yep, sink or swim, exactly. What do you think like are the top sort of key mindset things that you need to have in order to succeed in online business as a Muslim woman? Like, we have so many different roles. A lot of us have kids, a lot of us are busy. What are the key mindset beliefs you need to have?
Oh God, you're literally like taking my life. And like, um, right. Number one, I would say is work on yourself. You know how we mentioned all these fears coming at the forefront? Write every single one of them down, even the most minuscule that you feel is not important or relevant, write it down. The other thing I'm going to say is work on those fears. I actually have a coach and a therapist. Because one thing, and being honest and real with intentional, one thing actually I realized for the past few years is that I intentionally blocked money from coming into my business. So for many, many years, I would not make money out of MTG because it was a hobby, because I came from a low class family that I had a lot of lack mentality and a lot of financial blocks. And I was literally blocking my own money and success. And I had to work through these blocks, and it's extremely hard. But in business and in a personal business, and as a woman and as a Muslim, you are who is standing in front of your success, like who is blocking your success, right? Because you have all these different hats you're wearing, you have all these fears, and until you tackle them, you won't be able to move forward to achieve all the things. Because you can say, yes, I want to create this and I want to make a million, but how does that sound realistic to you in your head when you're thinking about it? Or you just, your head is saying it but your heart is not following. So it's always about, especially as women, I feel we use a lot of intuition. So it's important to listen to that intuition. So that's my number one: work on your fears, work on your blocks. And that's half the battle done, because I find since I've started working on my money blocks and my childhood traumas, it has been transformative, but also, I will say, the hardest thing I've done after giving birth, or maybe before giving
Wow.
birth, one or the other. I still haven't
Wow.
decided because I'm in the process of doing that. The second thing I would say is consistency, because no matter what you do, you have to be consistent. As I said, I've been in business for 10 years. The reason why I'm standing and I have the success I have is because I've been consistent with whatever I'm doing. When I started, people would be like, hey, help me. I'm starting this. And I used to give so much advice. 6 months down the line, they would just disappear because they found it so hard, because business is not easy. And I decided that, hey, text me when you're a year and a half. If you have stuck for a year and a half, you're most likely to succeed. But consistency is a key, because again, you have failures. You have to stick and go through those failures, and you have to keep going. And another thing is, the third one, I guess, is resilience. Like not caring what people think of you, or how they perceive you, because the only person who can actually judge you and reject you is yourself. So not everybody's going to agree with you on social media, not everybody's going to like your product, not everybody's going to buy your product. This is not personal rejection, it is just business. It's just how it is. Like, I can have thousands of people visit my course or my book page and not buy. And for many years, I will be like, they don't like me. But in reality, it's not for them. And once you accept that your product as a businesswoman, it's not for everyone, and you don't take that personally, that's when you're going to be like, I'm going to start serving more of the people that actually are the people who are my best dream client. And that's when your best dream client is going to show up in your life. um and yeah, I think the fourth one, I love yourself as a woman and prioritize and do self-care. Because as a Muslim woman in business, where you have kids and you work and you have to do things around your children and your husband and your family, it's very easy to just give, give, give and burn and have nothing left for you or for your business or for your family. So I started about a year and a half ago, I guess, self care, where I would take time to go away, to take a few days just to myself, to my business, to go to a spa and just be Elena without being a mom, without being a business owner, and just get out of that and recharge my battery in order to be able to go back and give to all the people that I need to give in my life.
That's amazing advice. I feel like you covered every side of the mindset that it takes. I want to ask you, because you mentioned that you went through this, and I think a lot of women go through this, is they have a hobby that makes a
Mhm.
little bit of money, and they kind
Yeah,
of are happy because they're doing this thing and it's making money on the side, but they're in that transition phase where they would love for it to be more money, but they're
yeah.
scared of saying, this is my full-time job. It's comfortable to say, this is just my hobby.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to women who are in that side hustle or hobby phase to move from that to a full online business?
I think it goes back to my number one advice, which was work on your blocks because something's blocking you. Is it that it becomes too real? Is it that it becomes too vivid, or it's bringing up your fears of failure, of rejection, of whatever it is? Um, Another thing is realizing the potential of your business and how much more time and effort it's going to take once you take it full time, for example, or part time. It's a matter of having all these barriers broken down, mentally and physically. So, mentals, work on your blocks. Figure out exactly what you want to achieve from your business and how much more time you can dedicate, and move out of, hey, this is a hobby. Move into, hey, I'm a business owner and I'm the CEO of my business. And actually, my coach told me that because I had something very, very similar going on in my head. And he was like, well, let me rephrase it for you. And he actually rephrased and he's like, no, you're an entrepreneur. You're a mom, you're an entrepreneur, and you're a badass. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I am. And sometimes, again, I would say sometimes you can't work through those blocks by yourself. That's why it's important to realize you need help. Because also, my second point is the physical barriers. You might need support from your husband and your family. You might need to hire people to help you more, to expand, not to have to edit your videos or upload content or whatever it is. So figure out the mental barriers you have and the physical barriers you have, and then start tackling them to the best of your ability. And also know that it's a process. Like, I feel, again, social media and all this fear is overnight success, when in reality, to build a sustainable long-term business, it's not a race, it's a marathon. It's like pacing yourself. And 1 month you might just get to ask your husband for a little bit more help, and the second month you might hire a VA to do a few things for you. And sometimes also, one thing I realize is it's not as expensive as you think in your head that it is, to hire someone to help you. Like, one of the things I always struggled with, and I guess that comes from my childhood, is I had a cleaner. This having a cleaner, and that might sound ridiculous, but transformed my life. Because I had less domestic arguments of who's gonna pick what and who's gonna clean what, or I would have to do everything. And it taught me how to talk to a person who I kind of employ, but also it removed a very big mental block for me of, that mindset or poverty mindset. And it does not cost the value equivalent of how much brain space it gave me is not equivalent. Basically, it was way cheaper. And I feel like as women, we always want to do everything by ourselves, and we have this, I don't know what it is, like victim mentality or like self-giving, when in reality we can ask for help and we can just navigate the fact that yes, we can have a business and we can have a cleaner and we can have an editor, and we can put all these things in place to actually make our life better and more successful.
That's amazing. I'm so happy that you touched on. There's two things actually that I wanted to mention from what you said. The first is I relate to that so much about having a cleaner. Like, I grew up in a family where suffering was a great thing. Like,
Yeah.
the more you suffer, the better you are. My life
Yes.
is so hard. I make my own bread. I have so many kids. I have to do everything myself. My husband doesn't help me. And everyone is cheering you on, like, wow, you are a strong woman.
Yeah.
And it took very long to be able to say, actually, my life is easy. And I can
Yeah.
make it, if I could make it easier, I would make it even easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really takes, for me, getting into a room of women where that's normal. Getting
Yes.
permission of your life can be easy and you can have a business. And okay, you have a successful business. How do we make it easier and build systems in your business to make it even easier for you to have even more support? And so I love that you mentioned that. Um, I also love that you mentioned Instagram, because anybody, I'm sure, who's watching this or listening has seen on Instagram how easy it is to build a $10,000 a month business as long as you buy one program. And that is not the case.
No, I mean, I have both programs, and especially at the beginning, and it's not easy because you still need to put effort into whatever you want to do. I mean, even I sell a course, and I guess that's really bad for marketing because there is a disclaimer when somebody goes to buy my book that this is not an overnight success, right? Because in reality, I'm selling a dream. I'm selling a dream of travel. But to get to the stage, it's not buy my book. So my book is about Umrah and how to save in Ramadan, like 70% of like luxurious hotels. And I always say, and I have a disclaimer, this book is not a buy it and do it. It takes time to build it, and it's something that you can aspire to do, but you need a couple of months. And there's so many times people have not even read this, and or the courses that give you that dream, but and I guess it goes back to honesty, but you still have to put the work and the effort. Nobody's going to hand you 10 grand every month for anything. I know you have a course and you do things, but again, you still like you provide value, but the work still needs to be done. Nobody's going to do the work for you.
That's it. The nobody can do the work for you, and people don't realize you can build an online business in the
Yeah.
span of a year that makes you that much money. You can,
Yes.
but you're going to have to come up with your childhood trauma. You're going to have to believe that you're worth it. You're going to have to feel comfortable asking for help. You're going to have to feel comfortable asking for support and hiring support. And all of those things, that's not easy. But
No.
putting a program online, building a website, creating a logo on Canva, all of that'll take you, it'll take you a week, 2 weeks to do that. But
Yeah.
all of the things you need to build in the background to stay consistent, to be honest, that's the real work.
Yeah. And I mean, it is rewarding, but it's also, I feel like as an online business, it's many different jobs in one. It's never, if you work for someone and let's say you're a social media manager for someone, you only have to do social media. When you work for yourself, you wear too many hats, and to learn all these steps and processes takes time and takes effort. So I feel that it's very realistic that it is possible to create a business. It's possible to get 10 grand a month. It is possible to have flexibility and enjoy life, but also you have to put the work, and especially at the beginning, that work will have a higher learning curve. because you have to learn the systems, the programs, and everything else in order to be able to enjoy that.
It's the same thing for investing, right? And when you first start investing and you start at $0 and you see that you made 10% and you maybe made $100 in a year, it's not very exciting. But
Yeah,
after 10, 20 years, when you have a lot invested, then you're like, okay, your 10% is, it's amazing. And so you have
yeah.
to be willing to do it when it's not very rewarding in order to kind of benefit later on.
I think there is this saying that, live the life not many people want to live in order to live like not many people live later on, right?
Wow. Yep.
And it's exactly the same principle, whether it's with investing, whether it's with any business. To be honest, even in retirement, if you think about how the whole world is set up, you work for 30 years to enjoy a pension. You know, you don't get that pension. I mean, I would love for that to be the case, but you don't get that pension before you're 60. So you have already accumulated in order to enjoy that retirement, of a sense. So it's exactly with everything else in life. And I feel that by having realistic expectations, you're most likely not to burn and to stay consistent.
Wow, that realistic expectations is so important, especially when
Yeah.
we're sold unrealistic expectations all day long.
You know what? So I started, or I'm starting, or in the process of like doing an Etsy. Like I want to create merchandise for like travel. And I don't know why I never did it at the beginning. So I started going to YouTube and watching these videos, right? Because we're talking about unrealistic expectations.
Yes.
And you have all these videos of mugs or doing print on demand, because I'm doing print on demand. And
Yeah.
I have, it's a learning curve for me, right? And then you have make 6,000 by selling this one mug. And I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing. Let me go in and I listen to this. And then I started it and I'm like, this is not this easy, you know, because this is totally different than what I have been doing so far. And yes, I can outsource it. But also another point for me is, and I mentioned this to a friend who's just starting, I prefer to always know how my business works before I outsource it to someone else. So, in order for me to train my VA to be able to do that for me, I need to know how it's done. Number one, because I feel better this way. And number two, then I know when problems occur, how can I fix them? But
Yeah.
these unrealistic expectations of selling one mug and making 6,000 were just, I always think about it and I'm like, yeah, that's not how much money you make. It is possible, but the one thing that why I came to realize is that this guy made 300 or 400 designs. And, you can make that. But again, it's about being upfront. And I hate these clickbait titles and articles because it's not how business work. And I feel that a lot of the time we do it because, again, intentional business affiliates and commissions and things like that. And for me, it's one of the reasons why I'm building a business that works for me, where I can be honest and truthful. Like, yes, you can buy my mug, I can make 50p out of it, but this is how this thing works, and this is how much commission I make, and this is why I'm telling you XYZ, rather than being this company or this mug is amazing, but then they pay you thousands behind the scenes that I don't know about, and I suffer the consequences of that because they're a bad company.
That's exactly the point of the way that we do business, making sure that it's intentional at every step so
Yeah,
that you get a product that's honest and people are happy to support your business because they know that you're being honest.
I feel like I get a lot of referrals from people, and one of the reasons why I get a lot of referrals is because people trust me to be honest with what I say. And sometimes you won't know as a business that you people get refer you. Like I have people who message me and they're like, so and so send me your video and oh my god, this was amazing and I did XYZ because of it. And it's just word of mouth travels. Yes, negativity can travel very quickly on social media, but also positivity. And I feel that that silent wave or current is more powerful than like a negative wave that can come out. And again, as Muslims and women, especially hijabis or people, who is distinguished Muslim, like visibly Muslims, we can be judged harsher than others. So it's important to retain our values and to be okay with it, of how we conduct business. for the, for this life, inshallah, and for the akhirah.
Because a lot of women feel alone in that. The fact that we are criticized more harshly, and that is a reality. Um, and so that's, even more so why we have to stand up and support each other. And I think once you know your worth, the amazing thing about the algorithm, we talk a lot about the negativity of the algorithm, but the more you are intentional about what you're putting out and make sure that it's in alignment with your beliefs, the more you're going to attract those types of
100.
people and the people who love your business and will be so happy to pay you for your services. And I spoke about this with DJ actually on another episode, and we were saying how those first 6 months or the first year of business, you get the most hate or those trolls that come into your DMs. And as you create content, it becomes less and less. You have to have thick skin
Can,
at the beginning.
can I just mention something? And I'm
Yes,
sure you have that sound. You just said, yeah, like, the first year is harsher. Your family are some of your harshest critics in
yes.
business. When you start a business, your family, the people closest to you that will try and you believe you're going to support you, are usually the one that disappoint you the most, and they're the harshest critics that you have, and that hurts the most. I don't care what a stranger will tell me. I mean, I developed very thick skin at the beginning. I used to cry. um but friends and people that I have known my whole life that still won't take my advice. I mean, fine. But it's just, it's just to know that this is what actually happens. And I agree, but I also feel like in the first year your family is like, it's gonna be amongst the harsh critics.
Yeah, that's important to mention because that's the reality. And I think a lot of people actually take longer to start their business because they're worried of what their close friends and close families are going to think of them. And I always
Oh,
tell people who are in the beginning stage, just block them. Block your family and friends and start your thing. I know for myself, it took me a very long time to call myself the founder of my business on LinkedIn, because on LinkedIn I have all of my colleagues from the bank and the people who I went to school
yeah,
with, and so I was nervous of what everyone was going to think when I wrote that I started my own business, right?
yeah,
And it took a year of building courses and serving like tons and tons of women to feel confident enough to say, okay, I'm a business owner.
yeah. I mean, I get it.
Elena, thank you so much for all of the advice that you shared, for sharing your experience. Um, I really feel so lucky that you're with us today. I did want to ask you because I'm sure that after listening, people are going to want to follow you, find your YouTube channel. So where can people find you? How can people work with you?
Right. So number one will be my website, MuslimTravelGirl.com. They can sign up for my newsletter, which is where I share information about my course or discounts, sales. I do weekly newsletters with travel deals, things that are beneficial for people who want to travel more, and travel tips that I don't normally share on my social media.
All right. Thank you so much, Elena. I really appreciate your time today. And inshallah, we will speak soon.